Great. We're going to go ahead and get started now. If you don't have headphones on, but you can hear me, please go ahead and put them on. It's going to be easier to hear that way. But I wanted to thank you for coming to our session here, the last one of the day here on the first day of Cisco Live, called Connecting and Protecting Financial Institutions in the AI Era. My name is Al Slameka. I've been with Cisco about 22 years or so, and this is one of my favorite topics because for my entire career here, I've spent most of my time focused on the financial services industry. And these days, while I'm no longer dedicated to that industry, I've joined an organization that's called the Cloud and AI Infrastructure Group. And it's really a fantastic opportunity to start talking to our customers more about what Cisco is doing with our solutions to enable financial institutions to be successful in the era of AI. So you've probably attended enough sessions to see a little bit of the housekeeping here. If you have any questions for me after the session, please feel free to post them in the WebEx space that we have dedicated for this session. And our agenda today is pretty straightforward. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in financial services and why AI has become such a significant element to the growth of the industry and where everyone's going. Clearly, that's affecting all industries, but financial services has a very unique position in the world in terms of its ability to enable economies to grow. And AI is going to play, obviously, across all of those entities that financial services deal with. We'll talk a little bit then about how Cisco's strategy, what we call One Cisco, really applies foremost to financial services as an industry, and why we think financial services industries should look closely at what Cisco's doing with our strategy. Gen AI itself is going to play a very significant role in financial services. We know AI as a whole has been pretty big and machine learning in the industry for quite some time, but Gen AI is predicted to really supercharge a lot of the capabilities financial services has as they deliver services to their customers. And then we'll talk a little bit about the impact of agentic AI and what we're doing from an AI-ready data center perspective, which you perhaps have already seen through your other sessions today. So clearly, there's a lot going on that's being impacted by AI across every industry. We see this sort of surge that's creating tremendous amount of opportunities across every industry. And it's something that for financial services institutions themselves, it's supercharging what a lot of institutions have been really looking to do for the last 5 or 6 years, which is to accelerate their transformation into new operating models. Now with that, of course, comes a tremendous amount more risk that is involved as institutions expand their businesses beyond the sort of traditional four walls, if you will, of banking or wealth management. And obviously, with the explosion of AI, it's going to create more complexity and a challenging environment for firms. And this is, again, because institutions are looking to digitize everything as part of a complete operational model change to their businesses. This isn't just about developing a new mobile app for banking or for wealth management. This is about looking across the entirety of a financial services institution and the leaders of those institutions looking and saying, how can we fundamentally digitize every aspect of this? Again, not only because they realize the benefits potentially for their business and the delivery of services to customers, but because of the economies that they serve. And the truth of the matter, as we see here, is it's only going to get more and more challenging for institutions and organizations as a whole as we see the growth of AI models into very, very large, unwieldy beasts in some senses. And what that's going to do from a data center perspective for a lot of our customers and a lot of you, which is this aspect of how it's going to explode all of the operational conditions inside a data center with power and, of course, being at the forefront of that. But again, we come back to why this is driving so much investment in this particular industry, financial services. It's because institutions recognize the power of Gen AI and where that is going across the entirety of the economies that they're trying to affect, and the role financial services is going to play in that. So the ability for an institution to be able to become more agile, to become more adept at delivering services toward those types of opportunities that their customers are going to see, the more they become relevant in everyone's life and the more they actually help economies grow. So, when we look at this from the perspective of where we are today, we're at a point inside the financial services industry where a tremendous amount of transformation has already taken place. We see that because of the nature of what we do in our lives ourselves through the digitalization that institutions provide for us. Again, the ability to do things that we may have had to go to a bank branch to do years ago, we now simply do on our phones. But beyond that, we see more and more complex capabilities coming into the realms of digital. And we're really here at a point where we're embarking on this next wave of transformation in that industry. Because again, what AI represents for a lot of financial institutions is the ability now to supercharge these business models, this entire operational transformation they've been focused on, and to be able to start to accelerate into an era where they can move more fast and address customer opportunities quickly. Right. But this ability then to deliver goods and services in a new way, to deliver new experiences, is really being driven by two sets of employees, if you will, because AI has essentially joined the workforce, and it's going to only increase in the context of assistants and agents that are out there that are working in combination with the employees at your institutions to deliver these services. And AI, of course, resides in the data center, and therefore that is why the data center has become front and center for most institutions today as they look to enable the capabilities necessary to drive these agents and these assistants to assist employees in their productivity. At the same time, employees have become more distributed. The effects of what we've gone through in the last 5 years where everything has been digitized has placed less emphasis on roles like the teller, but more emphasis on roles like wealth management or individuals that are providing more advisory services to customers or that are providing buy-side and sell-side services. These folks are now doing more work outside of the office, and therefore we have these two sort of intersection, if you will, of people and AI that are in transition. And what that creates then in the middle is a very complex distributed landscape. It means that we have to have the ability to be able to allow those employees to do their jobs securely with greater capabilities, while at the same time allowing them to access resources that exist not only in the data center, but of course, multiple different potential cloud locations, as a lot of financial services these days is reliant on third parties who provide their own applications in terms of their own private clouds. And the aspect of what we actually fundamentally need, institutions need to deliver this capabilities is new in the sense that a lot of the ways in which we will be consuming financial services as we go forward, the places we'll be consuming financial services, the way in which things like IoT devices we're going to interact with as we conduct financial services is driving much more of an immediacy in the need for a customer experience that's delivered in real time. And that means that the environments that we've been relying on, as performative as they may have been in terms of data centers, really aren't up to the capabilities of this when we think about it at scale. And so things are changing very quickly in the sense that these approaches that we had yesterday really don't apply anymore. And we can look at that again in the context of the people that we have inside financial institutions, as we talked about, delivering, again, services in different places, whether it be more in front of their customers directly, whether it be more through contact centers that have AI-enabled agents that are assisting them. And again, we see a need for an overall increase in the ability for institutions and the applications they use, the workloads that they run, to be more performative. And to be able to deliver this, right, we really need to look across 3 different outcomes that Cisco's focused on as part of our strategy. The AI-ready data center, which again is really going to be designed as we go into the future, not for only delivering the traditional workloads and delivering it with the same kind of capabilities we've really been working towards for many years across, again, multi-cloud environments around security performance, but also to deliver the capabilities that are required by AI models. Much more intense from a compute perspective, much more intense from a network perspective, much more intense from a storage perspective. And all those environments, regardless of where they reside, needing to have a higher degree of both resilience and security surrounding those. We talked about the employees now having a different expectation from what they've actually been doing for the last few years in terms of how they conduct their business and how they actually do their work. As the workforce shifts into younger employees coming into financial services, which historically for the last 10 years has been rather difficult, but has now actually changed, we need to ensure that the environments that we provide for them are the kind that allow them to be able to deliver the services that we want to create and the experiences we want to create for our customers. So those two worlds have to match. The future workspaces and the AI-ready data center are really symbiotic. Now, in order to do that in a way that really doesn't create so much complexity that we lose control of these environments, we've got to do that with an underlying pillar of digital resilience. So the foundational element of what we're trying to deliver to institutions and customers as a whole is a significant capability around security, assurance, visibility through digital resilience that allows our customers in the IT organizations to be able to confidently move toward deploying AI-ready data centers and toward delivering future-proof workspaces. And you can see that this is all accelerated by what we call Cisco AI. And by this, we're referring to the AI that we're actually building into our products to allow them to become more performative for you and your teams, whether it be from providing greater insights, allowing more natural language conversations to happen between operations teams and the assets they use, between customers and who might be using a virtual assistant or chatbot, or customer support agent that may be leveraging AI to deliver these capabilities. All right? But these three capabilities are fundamental to our strategy as a company that's focused on delivering an architectural approach and an integrated approach across our solutions. Right? And one of the key things to understand about where we're going as a company, as Cisco, is that this is a journey for us as well. We've had an architectural vision for 20 years in terms of how we think about security, how we think about collaboration, how we think about data center, how we think about enterprise networking. And we've always had an understanding that within those particular architectures and across those, integration is critical to be able to deliver the capabilities. And that's only being accelerated by AI, but it's also being assisted by AI. Right? And so we're one of the few organizations that across those spans of those architectures has the ability to actually try to bring this to you, to our customer base. And when we look at what the impact is going to be for financial institutions, I show this slide, and I actually start off by saying it's a couple years old. It's from 2023, a survey that was done by Celent about what financial institutions felt about the impact of Gen AI onto their business. And what's interesting is already 2 years ago, as you can see the two axes here are the percentage of institutions that are actually implementing use cases in any of these advanced or emerging technologies along the y-axis, and on the x-axis is the expectation of those technologies in terms of what the impact will be in the next 5 years. And what you see already in 2023 is 45% of institutions were already trialing Gen AI use cases. And aside from all the other things that are up there, I would point out that there is a bullet to the left of that is AI, ML, NLP, and advanced data analytics. That's pretty high up on the list as well from the perspective of use cases. But institutions realized that the capabilities that they had at that point in time, that it wasn't necessarily those intrinsic things. It was Gen AI that was actually going to drive the impact of the business. The ability for large language models and those capabilities of transformer architectures to be able to supercharge what they had been doing for many years in terms of fraud and other things, AI, ML, et cetera, into that next era. And when we talked before about the operational transformation that institutions are looking to achieve, this holistic ability to enable an organization to be transformed, a financial institution transformed, it's going to span all aspects of the business. There are really 4 areas in which most institutions are really concerned about when they think about that. And those have to do with 2 that actually our people-facing, if you will, which is the ability to deliver personalized, differentiated and connected experiences for customers, and also to do that while empowering employees in a way that allows them to deliver these experiences at a lower cost with greater efficiency and with greater customer impact. But those two capabilities rely significantly on the next two capabilities, which is the ability to build more resilient and compliant operations. I haven't said it, which is sort of funny that I've got this far in a presentation about financial services and hasn't mentioned how highly regulated this industry is. But as we approach these capabilities to deliver new services to our customers, one of the most fundamental things we have to be aware of is that all of the infrastructures that we're managing have to be adhere to a very stringent set of regulations. And if we look globally, in many places in the world, those regulations are increasing. The ability for a financial institution to actually be able, in a very short period of time, communicate to a regulatory body how something happened inside a financial institution is shortening. And when we think about AI and the nature of what large language models do, it's one of the reasons most financial institutions to this point have not bridged the use of AI into direct customer-facing activities where the AI itself is interfacing with the customer. Will that occur? It absolutely will occur over time, but it has to occur in a way that an institution is able to explain to a regulator exactly how a decision was made and what the impact of that was. And lastly, this notion of operational transformation is there fundamentally because institutions are trying to reach a greater level of efficiency. And it's not so much really to reduce headcount, it's just to get more value. Doing more with less or equal is something that is going to be a mandate. We all know that the investments that are required by AI are not inexpensive. They're going to be significant for institutions. So the more that they're able to accelerate productivity inside a financial institution, the better off they're going to be. To what degree is AI going to actually impact an institution? And this was a study done by Accenture last year. And I'll explain the slide to a certain extent so you get a sense of what it is. The color of the bubbles represent where the actual which organizations or which job roles are being impacted by AI here. The pink bubbles are more on the front office employees. The blue bubbles are middle and back office. The size of the bubbles represents how many employees today are in those functions inside the industry. The larger the bubble, the more people doing that. And what you see here is a measure on the y-axis of the impact of Gen AI in an augment function to a job. So what percentage of, or which roles are going to be more highly affected by AI in a way that improves the way an individual does their job through augmentation. The x-axis is a measure of how Gen AI is going to impact these roles from an automation perspective. So think about it as taking processes that may be essentially inefficient today that Gen AI can instantly automate. Right? And what you see is, of course, the biggest bubble is tellers, right? But that's not an effect only of Gen AI. That's been happening for a large number of years from a transformation perspective. But what we see here is that there's going to be a significant breadth of impact from Gen AI into almost every job role inside a financial institution. And what institutions are really trying to figure out today are what are the particular use cases that can be employed across all of these areas. And that's what presents a significant challenge. NVIDIA likes to use a phrase which I think is very significant when you think about how roles are being impacted, which is what is the use case and what is the workload. Right? And you have to be able to match use cases to workloads to be able to effectively understand whether or not is this something that Gen AI or AI is going to be able to impact. So where we stand today in terms of when that report came out, which was earlier this year, productivity is still the primary objective or benefit, I would say. But recently I've seen more conversations that productivity is really somewhat of a side benefit of what we're trying to achieve here. It happens naturally when you start to use generative AI in job functions in financial services. What we really need to be looking for are those transformative use cases, those ones that are going to impact the customer by the ability for Gen AI to be able to provide that better experience. And for the time being, it will still be done through an augmentation perspective through an employee, which is why for all of us, right, that are in the industry providing solutions, it's very important for us to be able to provide AI capabilities that are easy to use. But invariably, what you're going to see is all institutions are going to have an increased use of AI just by the nature of the fact that the vendors that they're dealing with are providing AI in those solutions, whether it be hosted applications from Fiserv or Jack Henry or Temenos, or whether it be within infrastructure solutions from companies like Cisco. So there's a range of use cases. I won't go into all these. I talk a little bit more about some of the more focused ones for us, but these are the common ones. Across any institution, you have sort of horizontal use cases around content generation, summarization, code generation, semantic search, that are almost now table stakes, if you will, from an organizational perspective. These are institutions trying to codify the knowledge of their employees and deliver it through solutions like retrieval augmented generation, enhanced search, to be able to allow the expansion of the knowledge inside an institution, especially as some of that is leaving the institution. But this is a pretty broad range, and I guess the one point about this slide is if you're working in a financial institution and you're thinking about what you're going to need to be able to support, know that it's going to be a very broad range of use cases, and it's going to be across a very broad set of workloads as well. But the impact can be significant. This is also from the Accenture study from a couple years ago, and what this shows is it shows all of the actual functions within a retail bank, a commercial bank, an institution, a wealth management firm, from the perspective of, if you will, job functions or workloads that are in there, as well as the sort of the divisions, if you will, that are there. The darker the color, the more impact Gen AI is going to have in that position. All right, so it's a pretty broad range of capabilities that we can now match up to the use cases that we talked about now in terms of what is the actual workload that's assigned to that. Within Cisco's own products, the AI that we deliver through our products, as well as the capability to run AI on some of our systems, what you'll see here is that we have a broad range of capabilities to impact a lot of these use cases. But we can't stop there because financial services is a very complex industry. And where we are today in terms of how institutions are leveraging this for productivity is just scratching the surface. What's going to happen over the next 5 years is agentic AI is going to become more prevalent. And think of agentic AI as essentially a set of agents working together that are behind not a single workload, but multiple sets of complex workloads. Right? It's a complex industry that requires many checks and balances, if you will, along the process of a workload. And agentic AI is where we're going to see institutions start to apply a lot more of that thinking to be able to start to use agents to work autonomously across an environment, to be able to execute now more and more complex workloads in financial services. And there's a lot of them. These are some of the aspects of what constitutes more complex workloads inside financial institutions. You can see it across banking, across wealth, across investment banking, as well as insurance. Once these start to come into being, the result of that is going to be quite significant for IT teams, because if we think today about the challenges that institutions face as they're thinking about implementing Gen AI and protecting their institution against it, the ability to have multiple agents running around, moving information around autonomously is going to create more complexity, and complexity therefore creates lots of risk. So coming back to that aspect of our strategy and the underpinnings of digital resilience, we would start there from the perspective of arguing that what an institution needs to do as they think about this is consider the aspects of how you're going to actually wrap around an AI-ready data center, the aspects of security. So the challenges are quite significant. We know that by implementing AI, there's a range of things from an operational capability, or I should say operational perspective that really just increase exponentially. But we have to think about how we're going to increase that while simultaneously looking at what the threats are that are going to increase at the same time, and the concerns that are there, because we've got to do this in an environment where there's increasing cost pressures, there's increasing risks externally, as well as increasing requirements and expectations from the lines of business. And as I said before, it's going to be across a whole set of very significant elements of workflows inside financial services industries. These are some of the focus use cases that we've worked with some customers on to be able to help them understand what their workloads are, what the use cases are, and what the workloads are associated around that. So in order to do this, right, we need to make sure that the underlying infrastructure, the connectivity and networking inside an AI-ready data center can deliver the kind of performance that's necessary to be able to achieve this. And this is where these aspects of having a very, very high performance data center networking fabric combined with very high performance silicon, right, delivering a connectivity experience that's secured, whether it be from edge to cloud, to multi-cloud with SD-WAN, and then also the aspects of what we call mass scale infrastructure, the ability for institutions, especially larger ones, to take advantage of things like fiber for data center interconnect to deliver the performance that AI needs. We're also invested heavily in full stack systems, the ability to provide you with more integrated infrastructure inside an AI-ready data center to be able to allow you to accelerate to meet business needs. These are fully integrated infrastructure stacks from the perspective of delivering both the AI capabilities through things like NVIDIA's AI enterprise software to OpenShift, then to the compute networking fabric underneath that, all the way down to storage. And we'll deliver this in a modular fashion, either as integrated stacks or through something that we're going to release in a couple months called HyperFabric AI, which is a cloud-managed fabric specifically designed for AI workloads that includes high-performance compute with high-performance networking that institutions can start to drop in and take advantage of in a very short period of time. To do that, though, you have to be able also to operate this environment in a very efficient manner. So we're very much focused on the experience of unified operations between compute and networking as you run an AI-ready data center. Now, these aren't platforms that would be integrated. They're distinct platforms, but they're sharing more and more information between them, especially across the realm of security, as more and more telemetry is brought into each of these platforms. So with Cisco Intersight managing the compute and Cisco Nexus Dashboard managing the networking side of that, you'll see more integrations with Cisco Security Cloud to bring more insight across the three domains that we mentioned. And that's where we get into the aspect of all of this being integrated to provide the kind of visibility and observability you need from a digital resilience perspective. And again, around that, you're going to have a multitude of capabilities from Cisco in from a security perspective to provide that. Again, looking across a complete range of security capabilities that are going to be required for managing the ability to manage traditional workloads and AI workloads, to be able to get deep insights from a cloud perspective, and fundamentally to start distributing security out to multiple distributed points within an AI data center where it makes the most sense to manage that. Manage that from a segmentation perspective, from an endpoint perspective, and from the perspective of actually distributing it to servers and other devices like that. All of that is being brought again under the visibility of the Cisco Security Cloud, and combined with Intersight and Nexus Dashboard. The key message here is that we're trying to provide you, again, as we think about an AI-ready data center on an architectural basis, solutions that work together that allow you not only to move quicker, but provide you more visibility. And that's one of the reasons why NVIDIA and Cisco partnered together to create the Cisco Secure AI Factory with NVIDIA. They recognize that we're taking a similar platform perspective as they do with the NVIDIA AI Factory. We have the Cisco AI Factory that's consistent with their reference architectures, but on top of that, we add security into that, not around it, but embedded in every layer of the stack. So we're the only vendor actually across all of the AI factory vendors that has the ability to do that because of the breadth of our security portfolio and the investments we've made in companies like Robust Intelligence, in Isovalent, and the ability to bring this distributed security capability across the entirety of that. So I'll close off here, I think one more slide after this, with that we're, again, building all of the building blocks that you need as a financial institution to be able to drive those use cases that we talked about, to be able to understand the workloads, and be able to start moving even into the world of agentic AI with an infrastructure that's more robust and capable. Because these are the shifts that are actually starting to happen in the industry that are going to be driving the growth of an AI-ready data center. We're starting to see what we call inference-led repatriation. The world so far has been fundamentally a world of training models and fine-tuning models. And what we're going to see, especially in financial services, but really across all industries, is as those models move into production, get out into the world with fundamentally thousands more users, we're moving into a world of inferencing. Inferencing moves itself naturally, primarily out of the cloud, into the data center, into the edge, and you're going to see that this is where AI is really going to be tested for most institutions, is the performance that's out there at the edge. Therefore, it's going to be network bound. Capabilities of your network to be able to allow performative AI in a data center out to the edge is going to be fundamentally important for an institution. Yes, the cloud is important to continue to train models, to be able to test, but as inference takes over, so does the importance of the performance of the network. With that said, right, as a distributed environment across edges, basically security has to become the common substrate across all of that. And it needs to be distributed. It needs to be hyper-distributed to the ability that you can enforce things where they need to be enforced, but with the visibility and observability that allows you to understand that complexity even greater. And then also with the work that we're doing with NVIDIA to give you the choice from a silicon perspective in terms of not only the platforms we provide, but also the partnership that we have with NVIDIA around their Spectrum-X and Cisco's ability to provide infrastructure that is actually compliant with NVIDIA's reference architectures. So I appreciate your time. I'm a little bit over here today, but if you have any feedback for me, please do fill in the evaluations or come up after the session here, and would love to chat with you more if there's anything in particular you have a question about. But thanks for your time today, and have a great evening.